This is Iowa Talking Points, the candidates, produced by Studio 5 at Mud Advertising, Totally Iowa Media, and News Talk 1540 KXCL, where you hear from the candidates in contested races in the June 2026 Iowa primary election. Now, Iowa Talking Points, the candidates. From Studio 5 at Mud and Cedar Falls, here is Jeff Stein.
Well, hello and welcome. There will be a new member of Congress representing Northeast Iowa's 2nd Congressional District come January of 2027. It's an open seat due to the incumbent seeking other office. There are 2 Republicans seeking their party's nomination to be on that November general election ballot, and one of them joins us at the Iowa Talking Points table today. He is Charlie McClintock. Mr. McClintock is currently a state senator, former member of the House. He's been actively involved in city government, also a career in the military and law enforcement. You find his information at mcclintockforcongress.com. Thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
It is no small feat to run any political campaign, but certainly one where you have a couple of dozen counties involved. What led you to make the run for Congress this year?
Well, that's an excellent question, and it's an interesting story as we go through it. Before we start, I did want to say again, thank you for having me. Excellent show, and I really appreciate it. You didn't have to have me, and I know you have plenty of people to talk to, so I really do appreciate it. And I did. This is not the first time we've talked, by the way. We did once before, and I met you. It's been a couple months ago now, at least. Several, actually, that we first met, and I was very impressed with you. I just wanted to take a few minutes to say that. I think it was at a Blackhawk County event.
Blackhawk County annual dinner, yes, sir.
And I just think people should know that you kind of headlined that, and your knowledge of historical knowledge of that you talked about that night with the Constitution and the history of the country and everything. I was just very impressed, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to tell you how
you're very kind.
So I do appreciate that very much. So thank you again for having me. This is kind of an interesting one with politics. I equate it to like a job interview. You bring somebody in for a job, and you say the first couple questions are always the same. Tell me about yourself and why are you doing this? So when people get into politics, I'm going to give them a freebie right now. If you've never entered into any type of politics or elected office, one of the first things you're going to get asked when you sit down with people, whether it's an interview like this or whether it's just people bringing you in to ask you general questions, or whether you're just meeting with people and they want to know if they're going to support you. I guarantee you, the first 2 things they're going to ask, tell me about yourself and why are you doing this? So if we can start out with the tell me about yourself portion of it, I would like to start there. Is that okay?
You bet. Feel free.
So a lot of the people are going to know me in my home district, right? So I started out in my political career, I live in Alburnett, Iowa. And I started out as a council person. Alburnett's small, about 700 people. And I got in on council. And in Alburnett, like many small towns, they'll say, we need to grab up people to fill up the positions and so on and so forth. So I don't want to say that, people came to me and go, oh, we really need you or this or that. It was an overall need. So I got onto council. And I was about halfway through the term when the opportunity for mayor came up. And again, that came about because people were they wanted somebody to come into that mayor position. We were looking to build a new fire station and things like that. And they looked at my background and experience and said, would you be willing to run for mayor as well? And I don't want to paint a picture where everybody was knocking on my door asking for that. It was just something that kind of came about, and that brought me into that mayor position. And then I didn't finish that term either because the House representative at the time, Louis Zumbaugh, had finished a 2-year term in the House, and they were looking for somebody to run for House. And so that brought me into that House position, which was then District 95. Okay, so I would have run in 2020 of that year and then went into office in January of 21. a lot of things going on in that year. If you remember COVID, the derecho and different things were hitting in that year. But I like to at least give a baseline of what kind of brought me up to where I am in the Senate. And again, I want to point out, a lot of people when they go into office or something will say, well, a lot of people came to me and really wanted me to run for this office. That wasn't the case, really. You have to file your papers usually around the first part of March or something like that. And I remember folks they did come to me and ask, would you be willing to run? But I think it was like the week before your papers were due the following week, right? And
it was not an immediate groundswell, is what you're trying to say here.
I always tell people, imagine a list of people, and with that they're going to, you have the top people, and they're going down the list, and they're saying, no, I don't want to do it, or no, I can't, or no, I'm too busy, or and so then they get down to the very bottom of the list, and they're like, okay, now what are we going to do? So as that timeline's running out and they're getting down to the bottom, is so they get a hold of me. But they don't present it that way, right? When they call you, hey, we hear you're interested in this. It's like, well, who said that? Well, that doesn't matter, I mean, you're our guy. You're our guy.
Sure.
And so I had that conversation with that person that was doing the recruiting, and I said, it was like towards the end of the week. And I said, well, I don't know. I got to think about it. I'll let you know. And I think I might be able to do it, but I got to talk to my wife and I got to, mull through this. I'll let you know by this weekend. And I didn't blow him off, but I had to think about it. Because it's a big commitment to run for office. You have to put a lot into it if you're going to do it right. Mm-hmm. And you're committing your time. I was still working at the time for the city of Cedar Rapids, and so I was going to have to be on leave and things like that. And, there's politics in Iowa. I know you know this, but for the purpose of your viewers, if they don't know, whether you're in the House or Senate, you make $25,000 a year, for that position. And a lot of that time is spent, in Des Moines, a good portion of it, up to 5 months. We rarely get out on time. And so I really had to kind of work that through of whether or not I was going to be able to make that work. So I didn't give him a concrete answer at the time. So the weekend kind of goes into it. I think it was Saturday before I got back to him. And I said, all right, I'll do it. And they're just like, okay. And that was it. There was no level of excitement or enthusiasm. So then the next week, I go and I get my signatures that weekend. For House, you only need 50 signatures, so good to turn in 100. And I go file my stuff and everything. And then, of course, in the Secretary of State's office, it just shows up relatively quick that you're on the PDF pops up on the thing that you're on there. I have a primary. So they'd moved on, to somebody else. They'd selected somebody else because, I didn't just jump up and down saying, oh, yes, I definitely want to do it. And so there I was running in a House race with a primary. And anyway, I got through the primary, won the primary, and then I was also contested in the general. And that was a big race at the time. I don't know if you remember that or not, but I know you follow politics. But that race that year, there were 8 districts for that House race that were highly contested that year. And this was one of them. The Democratic opposition felt they could flip that seat. And they put a lot of money into that. And I ended up winning it, though, and I got into the House. And that's what led to that particular part of that part of my career. And then that butted up right up against redistricting. So that was the 2-year stint in the House. And then that brought us to my Senate race. So after redistricting, and I should say in District 95, if you've looked at Lynn County, you have the metro area. The District 95 was kind of a right hook portion of Lynn County. Was the county, out in the county. So just forget the whole metro area. That's all Democratically held, but Republican held out in the rural areas generally. Mm-hmm. And so I had kind of that right portion of it, that right hook portion of it. And it could go either way. There's portions of it, I wouldn't necessarily call it purple, but there are portions of it that are Democratic as well in District 95. And so when it redistricted, it picked up all rural Linn County and then Benton County. All of it, but one little portion up in the northwest corner. Well, I grew up in Benton County, and we can talk more about that later, but that was the new District 42. And so I decided, well, this might be a good fit. So I went through the process of talking to the House and talking to the members of the Senate, talking to the other senators that had that area. They were all redistricted, and they didn't want to move into that district to do it, so it was an open seat. But again, being open, others jumped in as well. So I had a 3-way primary, and I ended up winning that. Barely. I don't know if you followed that race, but it was the night when they called it, I had not won. I was 6 votes behind, and in the recount, I became six votes ahead, ended up winning that primary. So I know what it's like to lose on that night. Of course, I never really lost because I had the votes, but I know what it was like to feel that experience. And then in my general, I was opposed again and won that. And then that brings us up to, that was only a 2-year because of the redistricting. And then in my last election, I was unopposed. And I actually had the highest vote count in the state for that one, for Senate. So that kind of gives you a snapshot of that political side of where I end up where I am today in the Senate.
And obviously, making that next leap to Congress is a whole nother level, because it's one thing to run in a county or 2 counties. It's another to be multiple counties and for a seat in Washington. And I want to touch on that in the type of campaign that you're running, but we need to take this break. And so I'll remind the audience that we are speaking with Charlie McClintock. Mr. McClintock is a Republican. He is running for Congress in Iowa's 2nd District. That's Northeast Iowa. McClintockforcongress.com. And we'll pick up the conversation after this break here on Iowa Talking Points.
All the great news talk programs you love from KXCL on your radio can be with you wherever you go.
I'm Todd Starnes.
This is Mark Levin.
I'm Tim Harwood.
Bill O'Reilly here.
I'm Kim Commando.
Hey, it's Glenn Beck.
I'm Jeff Stein.
Just download the free KXCL mobile app. You can find us in the App Store or Google Play. Make sure you never miss a second of the conversation. Download the KXCL app today. It's a great way to stay connected to where Iowa comes to talk.
One opportunity. Change your career. Mudd Advertising is hiring product specialists. $20 an hour, paid weekly. That's 52 weeks a year plus record-breaking profit sharing. Let me repeat, $20 an hour plus record-breaking profit sharing. But we're just getting started. The best in the business: 401k, company match, gold standard health plans, on-site fitness center, generous paid time off, and so much more. Apply today and don't look back.
You're watching Iowa Talking Points, the candidates. Here again is Jeff Stein.
And we continue the conversation with State Senator Charlie McClintock. He is a candidate for U.S. Congress, Republican, 2nd District in the June primary. McClintockforcongress.com is his website. So as you were approached to run for Congress,
Yes.
there are a lot of things that you're supposed to do. There are a lot of things that follow a certain playbook. Give us a quick sense of how you got involved in this campaign and how you're running it as you lead toward the June primary.
Yeah, so a world of difference between Congress and state level campaigns and politics. I get a call, and the recruiting company was out of the D.C. area. And they said, hey, we're interested in maybe running you for Congress. Would that be something you're interested in? And they told me a little bit about it. And I said, yeah, I think this is something I might be willing to do for the district. I knew Ashley was leaving the district. And I said, this might be something I'm interested to do if I can kind of run it the way I want to. I talked to a lot of different people throughout the years and stuff about the way Congress was and changing that image of Congress. And I said, but, I kind of want to do it the way I want to do it. And they said, yeah, I think we can work with you on that. And so I started down this path. I signed a contract with them and started down this path. And we were together about a month before that dissolved. And I didn't leave them, they left me. And it was extremely interesting the way it works out. So for those folks that are interested, if you've never run for Congress and you're interested in the process, just know I break it down into about 3 categories. You can run what you refer to as the traditional playbook of running for Congress, which we can talk about, and what I call the independently wealthy that can run for Congress and have much more latitude on how you run your campaign and whether or not you use consultants and how you can have better control over your campaign. And then you got me and the way I'm doing it. And we can talk about each of those. But for this purpose, you enter into what I call the traditional playbook. When you go with a consultant, you think, well, you're my consultant and that's it. I just go everything through you. That's not really the case. You have sub-consultants under each one of those. And those sub-consultants handle things like your online, one does media, one does online fundraising, one does traditional fundraising, one does like calling, one does mail, and when I say online, that's everything from what you get on your phone to, what you see on the internet and things like that. It's broken into categories. Each one of those are a separate contract. You have some latitude over those contracts as to who you can pick, but again, your main contractor kind of brings those forward into who they have relationships with and things like that. And that's fine. It's a business for them. They go with who they can trust and they make sure is good. Some things you don't have much latitude over. You kind of take what your main contract has for you, okay? The thing is, each one of those you pay separately, okay? And each one of them gets a monthly fee. And then there's also things like winning contracts or bonuses. So there could be a bonus of, $5,000 for each one of them for winning, both in June and in November, if you go the whole way. And if you start doing the math on all this, you could have consultants that take 50% of your take of what's going on. All completely legal, right? You're paying for services. So there's a lot of money in consulting when they bring this forward for you. Now, they're providing you a service, but just know that there's money in campaign consulting. So that's on you to get that funding. To do that, they provide you with what we talked about, a playbook that makes you successful. Now, if you're going to do, like at a state level, you do a lot of friends and family initially to get things going, and then you talk to people that are in your small area. That's not the case for Congress. If you're going to do the playbook, then you want to get money nationwide, okay? And the message that you would give, like in a local campaign, if you're going to talk to people about what's important for you here in Iowa or even in District 2, that's what you should focus on. Well, what is important in California is very different, or in New York, very different than what's here in Iowa. So you have to be willing to say what's important to all these people nationwide, that may not jive with what's going on here in your district. So just know that if you're going to run for Congress, that you better be prepared to set aside what you fundamentally think is important in your area. Now, I'm not saying, I don't want to disparage, what different candidates are doing and this and that. What I'm saying, for me personally, I wasn't prepared to do that. And so as I tried to change their line of thought to say, look, I've been successful in a single county and in a 2-county, but certainly by a single county, I said, why don't we just run a good grassroots fundamental campaign for the people? And I know we have 22 counties, but let's focus on that and run like what we would normally do with a single county campaign 22 times. And let's just focus on Iowa. I don't want to take nationwide money. I'm not making promises to people nationwide. I'm going to focus here in Iowa. And I said, forget the PAC money. I don't need to focus on that. I said, I want to focus on just the people here and what's important here. Well, fair enough. They say, but you'll never hit the magnitude of money that you need to be successful. And I said, I'll put my confidence in the people. And as we continued to fight on these issues like that, say within a month, they're like, we can't help you. Good luck. And we'll see if you make it.
Well, that's a good thing that they at least, as opposed to continuing to send you bills for advice you weren't following, that they pulled out, but they also have their own reputation. How are you running?
And by the way, they didn't charge me for that month.
Oh,
they were a very straightforward and honest company, and they did not. Okay.
Very fair. Good to know. So how are you running it? Where are you getting your money, and how are you running it if you don't have this fleet of consultants that the approved playbook would suggest you need?
Okay, so I went back. I put the maximum you can give is $7,000. I put $7,000 of my own money into it. Then I went to some core donors, explained what I was going to try to do with making this run and making it. I hate to use the term grassroots, but just making it a run to change the way we put candidates in the Congress. I had some really good, it depends what you call a small donor, but the maximum I got, I think, was $1,000 from a few people and got it going. I also want to point out I did keep one consulting group, and that was the ones that do your finances. There was no way I was going to be successful with knowing everything that was going on with the congressional rules. There are just way too many. You can't just grab somebody that knows everything about the finance rules in DC without using one of those. That runs me about $1,500 a month. So I knew I kind of plotted out what I was going to need to get going. I've taken in less than $30,000 for this campaign. I'll just tell you that right now. You can go online and look at what I've taken in. But I knew what I was going to need to be successful. And I knew I was going to have to get, a couple thousand signatures. And so I looked at those 22 counties, and I started immediately, and I went to the GOPs. And this might sound syrupy, but the GOPs are the key to making things successful in Iowa. Never underestimate the power of the GOPs in each one of those counties. They are the grassroots. They are the people, the movers and the shakers. They're in tune of what's going on in those counties, and run correctly. They have the power to recruit and place good candidates and to make Iowa function. And they were very helpful to me. And not only, I have no paid staff when it came to getting signatures. It was all completely volunteer work. I can't say enough good things about the GOPs that helped me in those 22 counties. So that's what helped me get on the ballot. That's what helped me run a fiscally responsible campaign. And those are the people that believed in me to try to change the way we do things in Congress. So I don't have enough good things to say about those folks or the volunteers that helped me.
All right, so that's how you're going to try to run the campaign. We need to find out what you're going to do when you get there, and we will take care of that as we get to the next segment in Iowa Talking Points. We're going to take a short break now and then return. Charlie McClintock is our guest. He's a Republican running for the nomination in Northeast Iowa 2nd Congressional District. Back with more of Iowa Talking Points in just a moment.
One opportunity. Change your career. Mud Advertising is hiring product specialists. $20 an hour, paid weekly. That's 52 weeks a year, plus record-breaking profit sharing. Let me repeat, $20 an hour plus record-breaking profit sharing. But we're just getting started. The best in the business: 401k, company match, gold standard health plans, on-site fitness center, generous paid time off, and so much more. Apply today and don't look back.
Watch all the programs in the Iowa Talking Points series online at iowatalkingpoints.com. Iowa Talking Points, the candidates, continues with Jeff Stein.
And we continue with Charlie McClintock. Mr. McClintock is a Republican. He's running for the nomination to represent Northeast Iowa, 2nd Congressional District. The primary is in June. McClintockforcongress.com is his website. All right, so let's say you win the primary, you win the general election. Mr. McClintock goes to Washington.
I love your optimism.
Well,
I love it.
That's the game plan. If you're if you're going to take a seat in Congress, what do you want to accomplish? What are the key issues that you think you can actually do some good for the people of Iowa on those issues.
Yeah. So when I initially was putting together a campaign platform, a lot of it was the basics in which you hear, not only with my Senate, seat, but a lot of the stuff that you hear when you're talking to folks out there, economy, education, housing, some of those things that we have out there. A lot of the folks that I talk to out there, they're more concerned with quality of candidate. You'd be surprised how that is just a big number one issue when it comes to Congress. Congress has such a low approval rating, and they want to make sure that they send quality of candidate to Congress. You look at polling of how low Congress, how people have such a low favorability of Congress. The polling is actually very interesting. Polling shows that Congress can have anywhere as low, I think it got as low as like 12% at one time. It hovers around 16 to 18% in a lot of those polls. I mean, I saw one where people would prefer to be stuck in traffic. It had a higher rating than people what they thought of Congress. But if you look at the similar polling on that, as bad as people think that Congress may be corrupt or do nothing, they went and polled those same people on what they thought of their congressperson, and it kind of shot up around 50%. That's probably accurate here. They think that, I really hate that what they're doing up there in Congress. They don't do anything, or they're not working for me, or they're not responsive, but don't really pick on my local person, And I think that's why you see reelection rates so high for people in Congress. So I try to focus the campaign on sending a quality person there that is not going to focus on the money. And so, again, I don't want to dissuade anything about what specific points are. Obviously, Iowa has economy issues, and ag is a big issue that we need to focus on in Congress. But I just want to push, though, know who you're sending. I'm not going to be somebody that goes there and is just going to fall in step with everything that's going on. I guess if you're sitting there and you're in your coffee shop with your friends and you look up at the TV and they're talking about some bill that's going on in Congress and everything, and the administration has said, and every Republican has to vote for this or something, and it's showing Congress there, and they're all nodding their heads, and then it kind of pans over and you see Congressman McClintock, and I'm sitting there flipping through the bill, and I got kind of a weird look on my face, like, because it's no good for Iowa, and all of a sudden you see me go like this, That's probably a good indicator that, hey, you're sending somebody up there that is going to represent Iowa first and is not going to be a DC drone. So know that going in, that I'm not just going to be somebody that's going to go up there and be in perfect lockstep with everything that the administration may want. And if that's not what you want, then you need to think about the other candidate in June. That's just how it is. No one should be surprised by me in Congress. Know what you're sending there. And if somebody, that same coffee shop, the person looks over and says, did you know he was going to vote that way? The answer should be, yeah, I knew exactly who I was sending there. And I just want to make that perfectly clear. There's we can talk about it, but there's actually not two choices in June. There's about 5 on the ballot. You have 5 choices, on that. You can vote for me. My opponent is Joe Mitchell, and I have no problem with Joe Mitchell, by the way. I never disparage another Republican. I've never run a dirty campaign. I never will, even if somebody did against me. So you can vote for Joe if you want to as well. But there's a third option. You can write in somebody. I'm surprised M. Mouse has not won more campaigns in the past. And then I always tell people too, there's an overvote, right? Whether you intentionally or accidentally vote for more than one person. Well, I like them both, so I'll just mark them both. Okay. Mm-hmm. We don't both get the vote, by the way. It negates your vote. Mm-hmm. And then there's the undervote. And I always tell people that's I'm not interested in either one of you. Neither one of you are good enough to get my vote. And I'm not talking about, when I say undervote, I'm not talking about people that didn't show up to vote.
You're talking about skipping that race.
Yeah, I'm talking about you actually showed up, pulled a ballot, governor, down to Stein, and then you got down to the U.S. House, and you went, no, I don't like either one of them, and you just skipped it. Well, that's an undervote. Now, I'm not suggesting people do that, because then you're letting somebody else pick. But you actually have 5 choices. People say, well, we only got 2 choices. Well, no, you don't. You've got up to 5.
And then, of course, there are some who are listening to this conversation who say, well, I might go with the Democrats. I could take one of those ballots and change my affiliation.
I'm talking about the primary here.
No, I understand. But
you're right.
But it comes down to it. It's something
you could re-register and do something different if you wanted to.
Absolutely. And I've said for a long time, you all put a lot of time and effort into it. So a voter should take the time to figure out who is running and what they're standing for, because flipping a coin or not knowing anything about a race seems to be negligence on the part of the voter. But tell us, for those Republicans who are going to show up in June, why should they, when they get to that, why should they not write in anybody? Why should they vote for Charlie McClintock as opposed to Joe Mitchell?
Well, for voters are binary, in my opinion. Usually they're a yes or no on an issue, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that if you look at my track record, which there's a long one in the House and the Senate, you can see how I vote. I said this when I got into office, that I would vote my district first, and then I would vote the way I want to if the district didn't have an opinion, and then after that I'd vote with the caucus, right? And I do the same thing when I get to D.C. Is it good for the district? Is it good for Iowa? And then is it good for the nation, right? But the district has to come first. You have to listen to the people that you're out there. If you see different candidates, and when they're interviewed or when they're talked to and they're at forums and stuff, Thomas Sowell said that if I'm telling you the truth, I'm trying to help you. If I'm telling you what you want to hear, I'm trying to help me. People are not dumb. They can discern between a candidate that is telling you the truth or not. And I think that's what you get with me. I'm going to do what is best for the people in the district and the people of Iowa. And I can say that all day long, but take a look at the track record. People that know me, they know that I'm going to go there and I'm going to represent the people. And I am very clear about what I'm trying to accomplish and what I'm trying to do. And look, and I've already said it. I make it very clear. If you don't believe that, then fine, vote for the other candidate. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat anything, and I'm never going to sit here and lie about something just to try to get your vote. I'm very straightforward that way. I've seen this before with other candidates where they jump around topics and do different things. I won't name any names, but you can tell the candidate that is going to do that. Take a simple issue or something, because voters, like I said, when they're binary on that, are you, Mr. Candidate, are you pro-life or pro-choice? That's an easy answer, right? I'm pro-life. And just say where you're at, because that's how our voter thinks, right? And so, but if you ask somebody a simple question like that, and they're like, well, thank you for your question. And, that's a difficult answer because, I travel all over and I talk to different people, and this is an important issue. And it really depends on what you're talking about. And about 15 seconds into it, you're just like, hey, just answer the question, And so just know that going in. People don't like, if you don't like the music, don't dance. Just answer the question. And I think that we run into that with a lot of different people, and that's where they get into trouble. Just answer the question,
Well, we'll ask some questions you can answer on specific things that you've done in Des Moines, or some things that give us an example of the things you find important. We'll do that.
Don't test my knowledge on bill numbers, or we're going to be asking Siri.
Well, I'm not sure Siri can help, but we'll ask you some of the things that you've worked on. We'll do that in our final segment. This is Charlie McClintock. He is a Republican running for Congress from Northeast Iowa's 2nd District. Final segment as Iowa Talking Points, the candidates, continues in a moment. Iowa has a wonderful heritage, and each day I'll share these stories of historic people and events with you. I'm Jeff Stein. Join me for the Iowa Almanac program and learn more about this great place we call home. now 7 days a week. Listen on radio stations across the state, via podcast, or at iowaalmanac.com.
One opportunity, change your career. Mud Advertising is hiring product specialists. $20 an hour, paid weekly. That's 52 weeks a year plus record-breaking profit sharing. Let me repeat, $20 an hour plus record-breaking profit sharing. But we're just getting started. The best in the business, 401k, company match, gold standard health plans, on-site fitness center, generous paid time off, and so much more. Apply today and don't look back.
You're watching Iowa Talking Points, the candidates. Here again is Jeff Stein.
A few more minutes with Charlie McClintock. Mr. McClintock is a Republican. He's running for U.S. Congress from Northeast Iowa's 2nd District. McClintockforcongress.com is the website. You mentioned you served in the Iowa House. You're currently an Iowa State Senator.
Yes.
Give me an example of some of the things that you have worked especially hard on or championed. I don't like to say, well, tell me about a bill that you wrote and got passed, because I know it's a collegial process, but what are some of the things that you point to that would suggest the kind of work you would do as a congressman?
Sure. In the Senate and even in the House, a lot of the stuff that I focused on was public safety based. A lot of the stuff that was things that were trying to help the people and things like that. But again, a lot of the bills that I run, some are assigned, right? Some of them are assigned based on your committee, so you're always going to have that. But a lot of constituent based bills where the people contacted me and said, can you run this? Can you do this? So if you, the bills are easy to look up. People can go out to the Legis website, look up my name and look up the bills that I've run. I bet 60% or more are all constituent based. That means you contacted me as your representative and said, can you do this for me and can you get it over the finish line? Now, some of them are departmental bills. Like last year, I ran a bill that protected mostly the elderly, but certainly everyone from scamming and things like that through not only Bitcoin, but other kiosk-based ones. This is where they call you and try to convince you to set bail or try to put things on a card, to go out there and get it through those machines. We ran that bill last year. We reevaluated it this year. I ran another one this year. That's going to the governor's desk to get signed and things like that. I worked with the attorney general and law enforcement to do that. So I don't want to say that everything is an individual. There's also a larger constituency and bigger bills that we do that. But I think you'll find that that is all constituent based that we try to do that for. That is our job. I think you will also find, if you talk to people, very responsive. I have a very good reputation about being responsive to people. And again, I want to reiterate that to folks. Don't ever think, to put it to an extreme, that you have to say please or thank you to your representatives. We are elected employees of the people. We are paid and put into office to respond to you and to make sure that you are heard and that we are representing you in office. So, when people come up and say, oh, I didn't even hear from somebody or something, so glad, thank you so much for getting back to me. You don't have to thank me. You don't have to thank me. Every time you go pay for something somewhere, do you have to, just gush all over the person because they actually did it? You give them 100% of the money for 100% of the product. Make sure you are telling your elected officials, I expect 100% out of you all the time. I just want to make that perfectly clear.
When you think about Washington these days, to say that it's a bit dysfunctional is probably an understatement.
Money.
Well, it is money, but because of that, what skill set do you bring to the table that suggests, if it's Congressman McClintock in Washington, knowing that the two sides are at each other's throats, that each side has factions within it, that money dominates everything. All right, what do you bring to the table so that people in the 2nd District can think, okay, my guy's at least going to work for some change?
Yeah. Take a look at your candidates. In any race, take a look at your candidates. I just ask you to do that. If you look at my background and experience, right? I just retired last July, but 36 years in law enforcement, public safety. Right, I have my 2-year degree was in, I'm a bad example of people jumping around for college. 2-year degree in computer science, right? And then my 4-year went for criminal justice administration. fit my job at the time. And then my master's degree is in business, though. And I've been accepted for my doctorate in public policy. It's like I can't decide what I want to do. So that's at civilian education. And then long public safety career, in law enforcement. And then for my military, you already mentioned it, 20 plus years in the military. And then so look at that resume, make comparisons against, other candidates, and then you'll see, but take the money out of it. That's all I ask you to do is just take the money out of it in comparison of the campaign. And you'll see a good, qualified, honest person with a good track record to send forward to Congress. And I think that makes a huge difference in what you're trying to do. Look, if you're going to go with money, chances are that's probably going to be predominant. I think I've heard up to 9 out of 10 times the person with the most money is probably going to win. Okay, that's fine. But don't complain later if you don't like that Congress stayed exactly the way it is and that you're upset with the way Congress runs and everything, because it's all tied to money, and you hear it the same as I do, that votes are bought and paid for, that donors control everything, not voters and things like that. Okay. And I'm not saying that I don't need money to do things. Money in politics amplifies your voice for good or for bad, but it amplifies your voice. If I have a message that I want to get out to voters, you need money to do that. But that doesn't necessarily mean you can't win without it. You can still get there depending on what the voters want and doing your message for you.
We have a couple of minutes left, and you're asking Republican voters in the 2nd District to vote for you in the June primary. So I'll let you take the final couple of minutes and speak to them directly and make your case.
Yeah, so that would be a couple things that I want to say. First of all, I want to thank everybody that has helped me get to this point. It is extremely difficult to run a campaign without money, a lot of money, because that trickles down to being able to pay staff to go get your signatures, to be able to take you here and there, and to be able to do mass advertising and things like that. But we've been able to accomplish that. I did get obviously on the ballot. You'll have 2 choices. I mentioned up to 5 earlier, but you have those choices that you're going to have in June. I would just ask you to go out there, compare the candidates, look at their background, look at their experience, and look at what they've done up to this point. Send a good, honest candidate to D.C. and make sure that you feel comfortable with doing that so you don't feel surprised later on. And if you feel that you want to send somebody forward that is going to do everything that D.C. is doing now, vote yes across the board for everything without even reading the bill or anything like that, then fine. I may not be your guy. But if you want to try to change the way we're doing things in Congress, you want to take the money out of it, and you want to try to make a better Iowa and a better nation in Congress, then I'm going to be your guy. And what I'm asking for won't cost you a penny. You've already got it with your constitutional right, and that's to vote. Please support me in June. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, sir, for your service, wearing various uniforms, now a uniform of a candidate. Charlie McClintock, he is a Republican, U.S. House, District 2, that's Northeast Iowa. McClintockforcongress.com is the website. Thank you again, sir. And thanks to all of you for joining us for this edition of Iowa Talking Points, The Candidates.
This has been Iowa Talking Points, The Candidates, produced by Studio 5 at Mud Advertising, Totally Iowa Media, and News Talk 1540 KXCL. For more information on this series, go to iowatalkingpoints.com.